So today we're going to talk about how should Christians be responding to Donald Trump. There's a lot of division out there, depending on what side of the fence you're on, and it really doesn't matter to me for the purposes of this video. Is one group is saying Donald Trump is the greatest president ever. He's saving the economy. He's creating more jobs. But then you turn the corner and there's another group of people, equally loud voices, saying Donald Trump is the most racist president ever. But regardless of what side you're on, we're going to talk about how Christians should be responding to President Donald Trump. And my answer might surprise you. Some people are probably looking for me to bash Donald Trump. Others might be looking for me to lift him up and elevate him. But my answer is going to surprise you because it's going to be the same no matter who the president would be, whether it was Bill Clinton, whether it's Bush, whether it's Obama, whether it's Donald Trump. It doesn't matter who it is. Our answer should not change. A lot of people like to use the famous line, what would Jesus do? And then we start trying to drive politics based on what we think Jesus would do. Well, I do want to throw this out there. When it comes to feeding the poor and doing nice things for other people, here's one thing Jesus never did. Jesus never went out and said, you will do it. I'm going to make you do it. I'm going to take from you, and I'm going to require you to do it. No, Jesus did not get involved in government at all. Jesus would have fed the poor himself. Jesus would have called you to voluntarily, as a believer, to let him live in and through you, to voluntarily love on other people, to serve them, to provide for their needs. But what he never did is just go and snatch it from you and then give it away. So I always say this: I never, ever will support the idea that the way to go is to hand over, is to by force take more and more tax dollars from working citizens and let the government be the one to distribute funds to support those in need. I think Christians are more than kind enough and more than willing to give and to help those who are in need. I want you to notice, you can journey all through the scriptures. You will never find Jesus Christ trying to change the Roman government. Jesus was not interested in that. Jesus was focused on sharing the gospel, bringing people to salvation. So let's just get into this biblically. What exactly should our response be to Donald Trump? And I think I'd like to start you with this verse out of Exodus 9:16. This is a short video, guys. I think we've got just 4 quick slides. But in Exodus 9:16, speaking of the Pharaoh, we read this. He says, "But indeed, for this reason," this is God speaking, "I have allowed you to remain." Now, who's doing this allowing? It's God. Where is he remaining? The Pharaoh is remaining in power. I mean, he is the most powerful man, right? And God is saying this: it's me that has allowed you to remain in that power. Now, no one would have knew it back then. You see an evil man who's just, he's horrible. But why? You wouldn't know why God's doing this. And God tells us, he did it in order to show you my power and in order to proclaim my name through all the earth. Go figure. Who would have known that God has allowed the Pharaoh, this evil man, to be in power over all these people? But God's purpose was that the gospel and God's name would be known through all of the earth. We move over to John chapter 19, verses 10 through 11. He says this. This is Jesus and Pilate speaking, right? He says, "So Pilate said to Jesus, 'You do not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you? And I have authority to crucify you?' Now, is this the case? As a matter of fact, it is. He's right, actually. You might think, oh, no, he doesn't. This is Jesus. No, in this case, we're about to discover that Pilate even has authority over Jesus. Because Jesus answered him, as the verse continues, 'You would have no authority over me unless key word, unless it had been given you from above. For this reason, he who delivered me to you has the greater sin. So what we're learning here is Jesus literally is being subjective to Pilate. Pilate has authority over him, not just authority. Let's get this. Jesus knows what's going to happen. Jesus is essentially saying, you have full power to crucify me, and I'm not going to fight it. Jesus is literally throwing his arms up in the air saying, God has given you power over me. I'm not going to resist authority. But Pilate, this should give us, guys, by the way, so much comfort realizing there's a lot of evil people out there, be it our boss, be it our president, senator, governor, mayor, chief of police. There's all kinds of evil out there. But even those people, they will have, get this, folks, they don't have any authority over you unless God allows it. So we don't have to overly worry about who ends up being our boss, who the president is, because their authority is 100% being driven by God. But if Jesus literally had authority over him that he could be crucified, what makes us think we're greater? That I'll be darned if any man's going to tell me what to do. I'll be darned if I'm going to, listen to Donald Trump and obey the laws that he puts forth. Look, there's a lot of laws right now that exist in the USA that I personally disagree with. But they have been given governing authority. Those are the laws of the land, and I don't go against them. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but I am not going to resist them. Now, if the laws allow you to vote, vote. If the laws allow you to peacefully protest, peacefully, I want to be clear on that keyword, you're not going to convince me that going out there burning buildings and destroying people's property is biblical. And it's not justified no matter how angry you are. If in fact, as what we learn, is that and I'm only speaking to Christians, if you're not a believer, this is not to you. I don't expect you to behave like a Christian. I don't expect you to hold these values very high. But if you are a believer, God is God. God has put people in control. And when you go out and burn buildings and hurt people and destroy property, you are not honoring God's wish to tell you to be subjective to governing authorities. And I know that might hurt the ego, folks, but if the law allows you to protest, I say yes. By all means, there's a lot of stuff we need to be talking about today. I'm not denying that. I'm talking about the way we are doing it, all right? Peacefully protest. Literally use your rights, the law of the land. We have a lot of freedom. We live in the freest country thank God that we're here, because if you were in other countries and you had to give into subjective authorities, you don't have a voice. You don't get to rise up and speak up against your government. You deal with it lest you be shot, never seen again. USA allows us to do it. I am very thankful that we have those freedoms here. So let's move now into Romans chapter 13, verse 1. He says this is every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities. Get this, for there is no authority. Guys, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about your boss. I'm talking about your mom and dad. I'm talking about your president. And again, I'm talking about everyone who is in a position of authority, for there is no authority except from God. That's comforting, folks. It really is. And those which exist are established by God. It really gives me peace knowing that, I don't like it when I'm answering to somebody who seems to have an evil side. I know that God has given them authority over me, and it may not always look great, but at the end of the day, I've got to trust the process, right? I've got to trust that God is God and God is good. And maybe sometimes I'm not going to like what's going on, but I'm going to be subjective to governing authorities. That verse continues with this, Romans 13:2. He says, consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is what? Is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment upon themselves. So whenever you rise up in anger and violence against your boss, against your police chief, against your mayor, against your governor, Again, we are allowed to speak up against them, to vote against them, right? You're given that. It's the law of the land. But when we do it in a way that is not honorable to God, and recognizing that if this man ends up in power, Obama was put there by God, Clinton was put there by God, Trump was put there by God. If we get Mickey Mouse in November, well, Mickey Mouse could have been put there by God. And if you rebel against whoever is in power, you're not rebelling against them. You, my friend, are rebelling against, excuse me, you are rebelling against God. Now, I do want to end this also with an important note here. This verse ends there. It says, those who do so willingly bring judgment on themselves. Some translations also say will bring condemnation on themselves. I want to be very clear. This is not judgment from God. This is judgment from man, judgment from the governing authorities. If you resist the law of the land, judgment from man falls upon you. You might find yourself in jail. You might find yourself attacked by the National Guard. I don't know. It could look like a bunch of different things. Let's not forget, everything has to be in context. Romans 8:1 tells us there is no condemnation for those in Christ. John 3:18 says the one who believes is not judged. So let's not take this. I know some people have turned this judgment that, hey, if you don't just cave in, God's going to come down and get you. No, that flies in the face of the gospel. You are forgiven, you are loved, you are righteous, you are holy. Even if we go against God and don't honor whoever is in authority, okay? So just some final takeaways, my friends. Trump is not in power because of man. I want to be very clear. Yes, we get to vote. I'm going to continue to vote. Thank God we have a voice. But the truth is, I don't even know if it matters. That's debatable. But at the end of the day, God's made it pretty clear no one will be in power unless God puts them there. So if Trump is in power, trust me, God has allowed it. God desires it. He's got a plan, and I don't always get it. And that includes some evil people across this world that are in power. I don't know why they're there. I don't get it. And again, if you're a believer, I say that you need to honor God and say, you know what? You know a lot more than me. I don't get why you would put some evil dictator. I don't know why, we had Hitler who was able to destroy the lives of millions of Jews. I can't answer that, but I trust God. Also, to retaliate against him, this person in authority, again, remember, it is to retaliate against God. I also end with this. It is okay, to the extent that the laws of your land, which they do here in America, they allow, it is okay to protest, keyword, peacefully. That is your constitutional right. It is okay to vote. It's okay to have debates and discussions and have a loud voice. Just do it by the law of the land. So folks, I just wanted to share those thoughts. I know we live in some tough times and there is a lot of anger. For believers, I'm just saying this, whatever side you are on, trust God, know that he's in control, and let's just focus on the gospel. Let's just focus on loving and sharing the gospel, loving on others and exuding Jesus. It's tough. I don't see this changing anytime soon, but let's not be a part of the wickedness that is going on in this world. Let's be a part of the solution, and that's Jesus. God bless you guys. Have a great day.